I'll say you were back in that 18, 19 years old and you wanted to pursue this journey that you're on, how would you maybe approach it differently than you did back then?
Well, I think the most important thing, you got to master your craft. Like, you got to master your craft, and you have to like really love it, because this is one of those things, like, be careful what you wish for, because when you're really in this, you got to really be in this. And it becomes, obviously it starts off as a love, but the more you do it, eventually that love, the thing that you love, it's going to turn into like a job. And I don't think people really realize that. Like, you're talking to someone, like, I've been in sessions, 12-hour sessions for like weeks on end, 5-6 days a week. Like, that's what it's a lot of the biggest artists you see, they put in work. Yeah. Like, they put in work. Like, they love it. They love it though. I think people just look outside of that lifestyle. But if you're starting out, I think the most important thing is mastering your craft. And then just honestly, I think I hate to say this, but it's making content, man.
My friends, welcome back to the Smokey Mirror podcast, where we dive deep into the creative minds that are shaping our culture and inspiring us all. I'm your host, Jordan Jones, your fellow creator, and I'm on a mission to spread knowledge and inspiration to help people like you leave your mark on the world. From artists to musicians to entrepreneurs and more, join me as we explore the intentional act of creation and the forces that drive us to do God's work. As always, support our sponsors, the #1 up-and-coming streetwear brand, www.scut.shop, and of course, our supplement sponsor, www.earthsaliva.com. Taste Earth's wisdom. Today, I am here at a studio in Miami that our guest, Mr. Justin Henry, music producer, entrepreneur, overall genius.
Oh man, that's
that might be going a little too far.
Nah, never going too far. I think I think it's right on point, man.
I think it's on point.
It's on
the
point.
Conversations we've had, I feel like you have a beautiful mind.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
And I'm really excited to get into it. So
Appreciate it.
Let's start off with getting into your musical background.
Yeah.
What got you into being a full-time musician?
Right. Well, first of all, like, I was born in Money Making Mount Vernon, but I grew up in North Carolina. So really, I feel like, with me and music, it's always just been kind of part of like something that I've always been into. Like, whether it's young and I'm collecting different like songs and records and just listening to it. I love the instruments, so I started to learn instruments also too. Singing, wanting to write lyrics. It was just something that I was always into. Was it your family was around you, or what was it? I would say it's family, but also it's just, I think it was the feeling of music, man. The way it make you feel, the way you put on a song, and the way it makes you just like feel angry, makes you want to feel like you want to be with a girl, or makes you want to just take over the world. Like, music is a feeling that I felt like I really connected with and resonated with. And it's just something I'm like, man, what if I could make someone else feel like that? Maybe I could share what I'm like and what I'm going through to someone else. So that's really kind of how it started. It's just that I was just a big fan of it, man. Like, I was a big fan of it. And I was like, I just started learning. And then really what really got me into it is when we moved from North Carolina to Baltimore, and Baltimore is different. Yeah, it's different. So it was like night and day. I'm going from the country, and this is like as a teenager, to Baltimore, and like, that really like helped me grow up like really fast, because just being in that type of environment, that type of area, and that's what really kind of sparked me. And I had a really good friend. We're still friends to this day, my man Mike, because I was writing, and I thought about getting into producing, because I play instruments here and there, but obviously, as a teenager, you're always into other things, you're always getting into things. So I met him, and he was like already producing, and he really kind of, being around him, we would kick it every single day. He would make beats. He showed me how to make beats. He showed me how to, like, I knew how to play like keys and stuff like that, but how to actually like put things together and make like a composition, make like dope ass beats. And our love of hip hop and love of rap is what really brought us together. Even though like I really love R&B, a lot of people don't know that. Like, I love R&B, but my love for like rap and hip hop was really deep, and that's what really got me into it. And then that's how I started learning through him, kind of like as a mentor. And we just would do that. We would sell beats. We would go to beat competitions. Some we won. Some we should have won all of them because it was rigged. But it was just like that's what really got me into it. And it was something we were doing every single day. Every single day. Like, literally, man, like, we would just make stuff, put it in a whip, drive around, smoke some and just be like, man, this is like the most incredible thing. But then I was like, and us working with like different artists and rappers, that was like where the difficulty was. Cause, one of the things I learned just producing people, and this is kind of what led me to like really just diving into being an artist also too, is that a lot of artists they don't want to challenge themselves or take risks. Like, I think if something works, it ain't broke, don't fix it. But eventually I feel like from a listener standpoint, I always look at things from a fan standpoint and from a creative standpoint. Like, I play devil's advocate a lot, you know? So I always look at it as like, let's see what we can try. I mean, the worst things worse would just don't put the shit out.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So that's kind of where my mentality was. So from there, it was just working with like a bunch of different artists. I remember we went to Philly. We were doing some things out there with like Akon and stuff like that out there. But, shit just didn't work out, and I knew I needed to leave. So that's when I like left and went to college in New York. And I used that as a really excuse to get away from Maryland, to really start my professional like music journey. And I think I was there for probably like about 3 months, and then I started doing an internship at Chunking Studios, and that's what really broke me in from like being just like some dude messing around in the underground to being like, in the studio with some of the biggest acts.
Wow, and you were pretty young.
I was pretty young. I was like, I think I was like 18, 19 at the time. So yeah, so that kind of showed me, and this is before I started, like, I actually wanted to be an artist. My whole thing was I just want to produce, I want to engineer, and that's kind of really it. But at the same time, I'm recording music, I'm making my own music, and I'm probably sharing it for maybe like 1 or 2 people, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what really got me to like that point. So it was like one day I was just doing stuff underground, and the next day I'm like around all these people that are well known. Like, I was in studios with Kanye West, bands like The Killers, bands like Fergie, like, just a lot of different people. And that really showed me what's the difference between like a professional and just someone who's an amateur.
And what is that difference?
Honestly, they really love making music. Like, they really love making music. They really love it. Besides like everything around that they go through or everything that they have, you take everything away, they just genuinely have a passion for music. It's not even just about the money, which you should get your money. Don't ever let nobody tell you don't get no money in music. That's the dumbest thing. That's a pimp move.
Yeah.
But I just noticed they had a genuine passion for music. Like, being around those people who were at the top of their game. And that's what really separates people who are just hopping into it just because it's the trendy thing to do, or they just want to try it or just make some money, which, I don't knock anybody's hustle, but if that's what you're going to do, you got to pivot to something else.
Right.
So I think that's, I see both sides of it, but obviously if this is something you really want to do, you got to be all in, 10 toes down in it. So,
right, definitely. You can't just half step into it.
No.
I'm really curious about how you really got that internship, because I feel like people listening, they're like, all right, I'm making beats with my homies and we're going to competitions, but how do you get that internship where you're getting, around all those big names?
Honestly, like, I'm a big believer in just pushing it until you get what you want. And like, for instance, like, and this, I've noticed this as a pattern in my life, is that if I really want something, I'm relentless with it. And it's just really keeping that momentum every single day, which is like one of the hardest things to do. But if you can do it, I mean, you can go far. But what I did, I set a plan. I was like, as soon as I touched down in New York, I was like, all right, I'm gonna use this being in school at the same time to, get to break out into the next phase of my life and pursue this dream at the time.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't have I didn't have much money at the time. So I was doing other things for money, but I was like, this is what I want to do. So what I did is I literally just went to Google. I looked at all the top studios in the city, in New York City. And I said, every day I'm gonna go to every single one of them every day until someone was going to like let me in. And I did that for about a week and a half. So it happened really fast.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in just harassing. I mean, this is probably not the right term, but you got to like harass people to get what you want.
Yeah.
And because like my thing is, what's the worst that can happen? No. Okay. You don't lose out on anything.
Right.
Like if you don't, most people don't even try. Like they don't even actually make a genuine attempt for like even a period of time. So like, that's why I really say is it's really no competition when you actually make an effort, you know, especially if you're doing it your way. original, you don't have no competition. Because most people don't even try.
Yeah, like who else was going to every single studio every single day? Eventually they're gonna be like, this kid really wants it.
And that's kind of what happened. The guy was like, this guy Joe Denby at the time, he was like, all right, man, like just come in here, let's talk. So I was like, look, this is what I want, this is what I want to do, blase, blase, and it just worked out. So that kind of like really got my foot in the door for like phase 1 where I was at that time. So yeah.
Wow, that's cool. So I know once you did that, you're like, shoot, I could probably make anything happen at that point.
Yeah. At that point, I was just like, okay, there's nothing I can't really do if I actually make an effort.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to be real with yourself. Like, am I really making an effort? Like, nah. Like, you're not really making an effort. Like, and I think that's the hardest thing for most people because most people don't really believe in themselves. They say they do, but I mean, if you look at what you're really doing, nah, you don't.
Right.
You don't.
I 100%. I mean, that was one of the biggest reasons I wanted to start this podcast is because I feel like people don't believe in themselves.
Yeah,
I think they learn that through school and things that happen in your life. But if I can find enough people from different backgrounds doing different things to show you that it's possible and why you should believe and just take that risk, I think that's important. So that's dope.
Yeah.
Tell me about like from that internship, what was the next step like to upgrade your career?
I think the next step at that point, it was like, okay, I noticed something being there. It's like, okay, this is cool. And it was fun. But then it was like, okay, I want to do what they're doing.
Right.
So, because I'm sitting there and I'm very observant. I don't say much, but I see everything. You know what I mean? So I'm sitting in these studios. I'm doing some of these sessions. And mind you, we're at this penthouse at the top of Tribeca and like in the middle of the night and like I'm running the shit you know what I'm saying with like interns at this point, but I'm like, okay, all right, this guy's getting paid such and such because I'm looking at all the budgets, I see everything. So this guy's getting paid such and such, this guy's getting paid such and such, the producer's getting paid this much, and the main engineer, if it was their personal engineer or like one of us, I'm like, we're like the lowest paid people, but we're doing like probably equally or more work than them. And this is like from seeing all sides of the game, like from an audio engineer standpoint, like these dudes put in so much work, especially today. Like there's no reason an audio engineer shouldn't get royalties. And I suggest like if you're an audio engineer, demand royalties or don't do the session, man. Like get your money. Like
I agree.
Yeah. So it's I noticed that and I'm just like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, these guys, they're not more talented than me. I'm like actually better than these guys. Like you're just being up for like, I'm around this and I'm like, I'm sitting back and observing. I was like, well, maybe I should really give this like a concentrated shot because I'm just like, there's nothing special except probably like the narrative, which, what you need to sell to people and just them putting out music consistently. And I'm like, there's really no difference. And that's what really made me be like, oh, shit, how come I'm not like where they're at?
Yeah.
So that was like that aha moment. And even from then it was just like, being there was a good experience, but I felt like I needed to kind of do my own thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big proponent of like, I may have something, but I always have to do my own thing. I've always done my own thing. That's just how I am. I think it's just kind of like it's in my nature to be the man. You know what I mean? I just can't go against that. You know what I'm saying? Like Martin said in that show, but I'm just like, it was cool. It was good for the networking, but at the end of the day, you got to kind of bring some value if you really want to like grow. And like I know I make great music. I know you do these things, and I didn't really even want to be an artist. It was just that I would play songs for other people, other engineers. Because quiet as kept, this is another thing I learned. Most people who are audio and professional audio engineers are like producers, artists themselves who just didn't pursue it. Even just people like in the music industry who are like executives and stuff. A lot of them are just, I don't want to say failed musicians, but they pivoted. Yeah, I'll just say that. Yeah, they pivoted. Yeah. So yeah, man. So I was just like, I started doing my own thing. I met another producer who did a lot of stuff with 50 Cent. He had a studio, so I was doing that, doing back and forth at Jungle City Studios, doing my own thing. It was just like a wild life for like 2-3 years, man. Like it was just not normal. And after that, I wound up getting fired from there because I was really doing my own thing outside of that. Yeah. And I think at the time is that if you're just not all in on what they wanted to do at the studio, then that's a conflict of interest.
Right. Like we can get somebody else who want to be here and do it.
Yeah. And it's like I was there and I was doing what I wanted to do, but at the same time, I always say like, I'm going to be my biggest insurance policy. You know what I mean? So I'm always going to like have something going on. Always going to have something going on. Always going to get to it. So
what'd you do after you got quote unquote fired?
I was still doing my own thing. I was still pretty much doing different sessions. I started producing for a bunch of people.
So at that point, people already knew you. They was hitting you up, and
that, and then also like that's when I really started like to work on like some songs for myself and really like think about crafting an album. So, but I wanted it to actually be like good and thought provoking. So I didn't like rush and just put stuff out. So I went through like a artist development process personally that I put myself through. That, I mean, I could have just put stuff out, but that's not really what I wanted to do. And I was really fighting against that. It was like this conflict, like, should I just put stuff out? Because I know I can make songs like this and this like that, but that's not really what I want to do. So it was like this big fight, this big internal fight of what I should like, what I really want to do. So that period, it was just really like a development phase as far as like being an artist. So yeah.
Can you walk me through that a little bit and what that entails? Like, was it like, why am I making music, or like, what message do I want to create, or like, what was it all about?
It wasn't necessarily the message. At some certain points, I mean, I think every creative questions themselves. It's kind of like, you look up one day in the middle of a Wednesday, you're like, what the fuck am I doing with my life?
What's the point of this shit?
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It's like, why am I doing this? And just like, but I think it's just keeping your head down and understanding, like, at the end of the day, like, if you're doing it not just for yourself, but for a higher purpose, then you have to do it. Like, it's something innate in you. Like, there's, especially for like someone who in music and musicians, that's why musicians don't really retire. They don't really fall off if they really love it. I mean, they might not have the visibility they used to, but if they're still making it, that means they have something within them that they want to keep creating. Like they have to create. And that's one of the things I think, you know, all artists struggle with. But for me particularly, it was just like, you know, being patient. It was like patience. But then also, you know, life shit also too I was dealing with. And then it was just, I always had like 1 foot in, 1 foot out at one point. So it was just like a really more so like a development of my mind at the time.
Yeah,
it was
like
like
you were going from not really being the artist to kind of supporting to be like, all right, now I'm really the artist. Right?
Yeah, and it was like it was an interesting transition. Definitely an interesting transition, but at the same time, it was more so I wasn't putting as much music out. I was making music, but I wasn't putting it out because I was just like, nah, it's just not it. It's not it. That's not it. And I could have probably put it out, and who knows, like what would have happened. But then at the same time, I'm always thinking about like, you know, if I put this out, you know, is this really my best foot forward? Is this really my best effort? You know, and that's kind of like what I look at it as. It's like, I really want to put my best foot forward, not just throw shit out just to throw shit out.
Right.
You know, especially that. I mean, other people can do it, and I salute them. Like, we all, you know, there's no one way to do anything, but that's how, like, I do things. Like, if I want to put something out, I want to make an impact. How
do you make sure you don't get paralyzed by trying to make it too perfect to actually making sure you get it done and get something out?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I think now it's just easier for me. I would say when it comes to production, making beats or making songs for other people, that's easy for me. That's real easy. But when it comes to like when it comes to my music, it's kind of like, you know, do I want to say something? And sometimes I don't want to say shit. I just want to like say whatever comes to my mind and just put it out. And I do that now. But I think it's more so just like sitting, like listening to it and just be like, yeah, it's done. I think you just got to be like, it's done, because you can keep crafting and crafting and crafting. It's like someone playing with clay. I don't know what they're called, but you could keep crafting until it's just messed up.
Yeah.
So then you know, I think it's just getting out of your head and not overthinking things. You can't overthink. Like, you can't overthink at all.
Okay. So when did you make the move from New York to Miami?
About 3 years, actually exactly 3 years ago.
Oh, that was recent. So you was in New York for a while.
Yeah, I was in New York for a little while, man. And the reason why I moved to Miami is because, one, I mean, obviously for the obvious reasons, the weather, you know, other W's, but also really just this was a creative hub, and I felt like just from like a refreshing standpoint for my mind, it was like a better environment to be in. And I just felt like it was just the right place at the right time. Like, this is a creative hub. Honestly think it's going to be a creative hub of the world. That's where it's headed. But it just felt like the right thing to do at the time. And it was been the best thing I've ever done. Like, nice. So it's just good to call this place home. It's a good creative space. It just made sense, man. And I made the decision real fast. Like, it was like, I made a decision. I was just like, yeah, I want to move down here. And then like a month later I was here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's great. Okay, let's talk about you as an artist.
Yeah.
What was your first album? How did it go? What did you learn?
The first album I put out maybe like 5 years ago just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really just for like a test run. And then I got like I pretty much built like a nice small like audience, the fan base. I usually like the word audience more so fan base, but you know, I'm a fan, so whatever.
Right.
Fan base. And it got some really decent traction. And then my next project was where I really got more serious. I'm like, okay, now I want to actually make a really good album, where my first album is more so like a coming of age.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always big about like themes. So that theme is like about a coming of age. This last album was more so about, you know, everything that you go through and dreaming about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you really listen to it, so everything's thematic. Like I'm big on tying things in and just executing on ideas. So whenever I make an album, it's more so about like, what idea can I come with and then execute that through songs. So that's what I'm always thinking of albums.
Nice.
And sometimes, you know, I just want to make like 12, 13, 14 songs and just put the shit out. Like sometimes I just want to do that. But when it's like an album, I'm really just, you know, especially for my inspirations, as far as like musicians that I look up to or artists that I look up to, you know, they really take albums seriously as far as like thematic. And I really wanted to push the envelope. Like I really wanted to push the genre forward. Because, I mean, I figure somebody has to do that. Like, we need artists to push the genre forward, to take risks. Sometimes we're going to get shot in the back with bow and arrows, and sometimes we're going to get praise.
Yeah.
But somebody's got to do that. You know what I mean? I mean, if you look at just like artists like, I'll use Young Thug, for example. He took a lot of bullets for what people is normal now.
Mm-hmm.
Kanye West, when he switched over and did 808s, he took a lot of bullets for that. Same thing with Yeezus. I mean, I could go back to damn Prince. I could go all the way back to like James Brown. Like, and this is in every genre and every artist. Like, I'm a real student of music. So I see these trends and see what happens, but somebody's got to push the genre forward. Somebody's got to push rap forward. Somebody's got to do that. You know, I mean, I think that's the biggest reason why fans and even just artists are complaining about what's happening with rap music this year, is because there's lack of creativity, lack of taking risks. And I think also just lack of just like artists, you know, wanting to make big songs. You know, I think the artists are just comfortable in their pocket, but you know, in this day and age, that's not a bad thing. You can actually do great with that. So, you know, that's something I don't really have I think the answer is just to really just push the envelope and make some music and just do you. Somebody's gonna come along and do it. I mean, that's what I'm here for. So
that's true. Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with you. I feel like the artists that I respect the most and feel like I put at the top tiers are the ones that are original, that do things that nobody else has done before. Yeah. Especially in the space of adversity or people saying that was terrible. And then as it goes, it's like, whoa, no, this person was onto something.
Facts.
I feel like that right there is more impressive than staying safe, doing whatever. That kind of led me to my next question is kind of, how do you feel about the music industry right now? Is it going in the right direction? Do you feel like maybe money is kind of having an adverse effect on it, like in the industry, and you know?
I think with music, and I would say it like this, I feel like, well, I'll say it like this. Music as an industry, I think it's like an industry that's becoming deregulated. And what I mean by that is being broken down. So it's like you could be popping over here and have nothing to do with like the machine and live a great life. But also at the same time, I think that it's, we're in a space to where like, independent artists who were even like major artists wanted freedom. Independent artists at that time wanted freedom. We actually have that freedom now.
Yeah.
And I don't think people really realize it. So now it's more so effort. But it's kind of like a catch-22 thing. You have the freedom, but now you got the responsibility. And I don't think people really understood the responsibility of that. Like I'm not a guy who really bashes labels. I see life, so I see both sides. And I've been in labels, I've sat in labels, played beats and submission. Like I see both sides. Now, as far as like holding somebody's masters for a lifetime, I think that's fucking predatory.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. But I think the industry is in a space to where the old guard doesn't want to let go. But I think they realize it's too late. Like the writing's on the wall. They're going to cease control. Even like this thing with Spotify not paying an artist. Like
I don't get a certain amount of streams.
Yeah, honestly, I don't give a fuck about that at all. Like I don't because I'm not relying on Spotify to make my living. I just think it's like artists, all artists, whether they be major artists or independent artists, I think we're going to see a fusion of where they're going to do their own thing, but they need the infrastructure because at the end of the day, like, you know, I love making music. I don't really want no parts of the business, but you gotta, that's part of the responsibility that we asked. Like artists asked for this shit since like the 60s and 70s. Now we have it, but nobody wants the responsibility of it.
Right.
But so that's like the catch-22. I think we're in a space that's it's changed and it's continuing to change. It's ever evolving. I don't even think this industry will look the same 4 or 5 years from now. And it's just about us keeping up with that. And then just understanding, like, I'm hearing, like, there's not going to be any more quote unquote superstars. There's always going to be top dogs, always. It's just going to look different. Yeah. It's just going to look different. So I think we're in a space that's really, really good. If you really want to take this artistry, if you really want to be an artist or be a music artist serious, you can really do it, but you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of things artists don't realize. Like, you can't do it by yourself. You're going to need help. Like, I don't do anything. Like I'm luckily I have a team now. We're still growing, but there's no way I could do this by myself. There's no way. And I'm just really just starting to get to where I'm and on some momentum, like some real momentum. So you can't do it by yourself. You need a team. If you want to take the major route, that's on you. Like, just understand my thing is just understand what you're getting yourself into. If you could live signing a deal and them breaking you, which they're not really doing too much now, which from a business standpoint, I understand. But if that's what you want to do, don't complain about it later. Because at the end of the day, you got to look at it like this is if someone's like putting all the resources and everything into you, I mean, they should get majority of it back and you're getting opportunity. But don't cry about it when you know that's what it is. But I think people don't really pay attention to that at all. Like, and I knew this shit when I was like 15 years old. It's like, okay, I got to give to get something.
Yeah.
And I think it's just partially selfishness. Like you got to give up something to get it. That's just how this world works. That's how the universe works. You got to do that.
You got to sacrifice something.
Yeah. You got to, nobody has it all. Not even Elon Musk. He don't have it all. I mean, he got bad relationships with his kids, but he's the richest man in the world. Nobody has it all. So you just got to understand it's what you can live with.
Somebody said there's no solutions. There's just trade-offs.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. You can't have it all.
It's true.
Yeah.
What would you do or maybe outline a process for if you were an artist right now? Say you were back in that 18, 19 years old and you wanted to pursue this journey that you're on. How would you maybe approach it differently than you did back then, if at all?
Well, I think the most important thing, you got to master your craft. Like, you got to master your craft and you have to like really love it, because this is one of those things, like, be careful what you wish for, because when you're really in this, you got to really be in this. And it becomes, obviously it starts off as a love, but the more you do it, eventually that love, the thing that you love, it's going to turn into like a job. And I don't think people really realize that. Like, you're talking to someone, like, I've been in sessions, 12-hour sessions for like weeks on end, 5-6 days a week. Like, that's what it's a lot of the biggest artists you see, they put in work.
Yeah.
Like, they put in work. Like, they love it. They love it though. I think people just look outside of that lifestyle. But if you're starting out, I think the most important thing is mastering your craft. And then just honestly, I think I hate to say this, but it's making content, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to do that. I mean, I hate to say it, but you got to do that. I think you got to do that. And I think that's the hardest thing for a musician to do, or like a rapper to do, or a singer to do, is because we're so focused on the music. And it's like, now we got to come up with creative ideas to film. It's like, fuck, like, you know what I'm saying? But I think it's just like switching your mind around it. Cause I understand, like, I love film. I love doing that. But it's just like, especially if I'm producing, like, I'm making this shit. And then I got to turn around and write lyrics. And then I got to turn around and think of videos. Right. I think you just got to switch your mind about it and just embrace it. Like, okay, this is part of the process. Yeah. This is the responsibility that I asked for if I wanted to, like, really get leverage if I want to move up. Maybe I do want to sign with a label. Maybe I just want somebody to distribute my stuff. Maybe I just want to build it myself. But these are the things you're gonna have to do regardless. So you just need to embrace that it's part of the process and have fun with it.
Yeah, I think that content creation piece is so important. It's like now, if you're starting a business, if you're doing anything creative, you're a content creator. Like, you don't get a choice. If you want to survive and grow, you got to be a content creator.
Yeah, man.
And I was not expecting that when I was growing up. I mean, I'm only 27 years old. Yeah. 10 years ago, I didn't think the world would look the way it does now.
Yeah, that's what
And like you said, in 5 years, it's going to look even crazier. So I think that's another thing you have to be as an entrepreneur or a creative. You got to be flexible and willing to adapt new things.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get afraid of that. They don't want to change, or they think they're too good to do certain things. And I feel like that's where you fall off.
And I got a good example of that. Like the way when I started producing, like I produced on like I learned through like Emu drum machines, which are still great sonic wise, and like outboard synth, like hardware synth and stuff like that. And I would connect it, use hardware and software with FL Studio. So like that's kind of how I learned how to produce. So it taught me a lot as far as like, how to sound design, like cultivate my own sound. You can use presets too, but I learned how to like program my drums and things like that, which is why like the sound, my sound is, my sound. I had to learn how to cultivate that. And now like with production, it's so easy to start. But I think even this is on a producer side, and this goes back to what you said earlier. Why is the music like it is and it's born? I can't just put it on the artist. It's the producers also too. Because a lot of producers, and this is no knock on them, and they just starting out. It's fine, I get it. I started from somewhere. I sucked for like a year. But I mean, if you heard my beats from like my first year, you're like, what the hell is this?
Everyone's gonna be bad.
Exactly. But once I learned how to actually like put the sounds together and like what I wanted and get my ideas out, then it changed. But I think it's just so easy to start that it lacks the creativity. Like it's so easy to make beats fast, because like I see people making beats fast, making me fast, which I can do that too. It's easy for me. I've mastered my craft. Like I'm a fucking music machine. Right. But it's just at the same time, it's kind of like, how can we like make something and put some like time into our craft? How can we craft like the best possible song? How can we craft like the best possible record? So that's what I think what's wrong with the producers now, because the producers are the beats behind it. Granted, there are I would say there's a lot more good beats, but also there's a lot of good beat makers who make the same stuff, because it's so easy with loops. And then now you have AI where you can actually break stems. Now from a sampling standpoint, that's like revolutionary. But I think also at the same time with these tools, if you can get creative with them, I think that's a good thing. Because right now we have older producers who've been doing it for a while. They see these things in ease and they kind of hate on people using these things. And on the flip side, the new producers who are using these things, they're looking at the old ways like that takes too long. But I think the perfect blend is using these two things together. So I'm all for like using AI in music production. I'm all for using stem separation in music production, because I can use that with my Emu drum machine. I can use that with my synth. I can use that, so I think it's at the end of the day, it comes down to your mind. What can you make with that? Instead of like using it as a crutch. Now it's cool every now and then, because you're gonna get fatigued. Like I've been in sessions where it's just like, today's not the day. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Let's play some of my old stuff I made like the other day and see what you like that. So it happens. But I just think you just need to embrace it. Even just artists, you just got to embrace it and you think creatively. How can you actually use something to do something that fits you? So, yeah.
I'm really curious about this. I don't even know if this is the right way to ask it, but like, where do you make the majority of your money as a music producer? Is it in the royalties? Is it in the session fees? Like, if somebody's coming up, they're trying to think like, how do I even make money off of this? Yeah. How do you do that?
Yeah. I think we have to open our minds into the world we're living in now. Because and I see this even from fans and even from people who make music. They're thinking like it's like, 2010. This is 2023. Like we gotta open up to what we can actually do and what it really looks like for you as a producer or an artist. Like, you're not going to blow up like a Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole. You didn't have $2-3 million budgets behind you to break you. So your come up is not going to look like that. Our come ups are going to look completely different. Same with a producer. So as a producer, you got to understand there's YouTube. I can get YouTube rap revenue. Maybe I could sell stems. I could sell sound packs while I produce for other artists and get royalties off of that. Maybe I can put content behind a paywall for other producers and charge like a monthly fee. You know, we can't think like I'm chasing this placement for these, you know, how many major albums come out, major label albums come out a year? Probably like about, I want to say maybe like 500, 600, could be a little bit more or less. I know it's like under 1,000 major label albums. And we're just talking, if we're just talking strictly like rap and hip hop, not even pop, like if you're on pop, like, why would they choose you over Max Martin, a guy who's been making #1 hits for like 30, 25 years and shit? You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Or just like, you know, I'm trying to get this on this big album. Like, my thing is like, most of those placements happen through relationships. So if you don't have relationships with other artists, 9 times out of 10, you're doing some submission here, submission there. That's like, just, to me, it's just crazy, because now you're really betting on this piece when you're missing the whole pie. This is cool. This is cool for validation. This is cool for plaques. That's great. You can get your own Spotify plaques, but you should be looking at the whole pie. Like, I could do all these other things, build a brand, maybe, you know, I'll also too sell that brand, collaborations, you know, collaborations with different brands as a producer. You can make music, you know, instead of just trying to license your music to these things, maybe other YouTubers or other things. Like, you got to understand, this is new media. It's a new day and age. So these things are cool, but this is where you can make majority of money. Like, I don't chase placements. I don't chase placements. Like, I've been there and been the guy who's chased placements. I've been in studios and played beats for like fucking like Gucci Mane and all these people. So but I just don't, for me, if I'm really want to build a life and actually really want to if I want to build a life and I really want to make money, I'm going to utilize everything around that. And the placements are going to come. Like, you get hot enough, people are going to come and check for you. Like, I'm a big believer, like, you know, people will come to you. When you start doing your thing, people notice you. And that's because you're adding value. I think a lot of people are just like, okay, I started making beats like 6 months ago, a year ago, or I just started making a song a couple months ago. Now, how come I don't have this feature with like this person? Or how come I'm not working with this person yet? Like, it don't really work like that. Every now and then some people gets lucky, but that's the exception being sold as the norm. You know what I'm saying? That's not normal, you know? So I just think at the end of the day, it's just like, you got to start thinking like, it's just this way. I got to get this placement on this Khaled album. I got to get this placement on my album. I got to get this placement on such and such album. Like, I mean, you're missing out on so much because you got blinders on and you're looking for validation, man. Validate yourself and do your own thing. You'll get that shit.
I think that goes back to kind of what you said about content creation and just really reimagining what it means to be an artist or a producer or whatever. There's plenty of different revenue streams. And even me doing this podcast, I was thinking like, you know, obviously the YouTube, you know, that'd be good, and like sponsors, but I mean, I could sell courses on how to start a podcast. You know what I mean? Like selling merch, like doing all types of things that maybe aren't traditional or, you know, automatically think about it, but you kind of have to expand your mind into the different ways you can make money.
And nothing's traditional until you make it traditional. Like, for instance, it's like, you know, why maybe I could do, you know, from a production standpoint, like also just think, okay, I make music here, but we live in a world connected. Like, why don't I produce for this hot artist in Brazil that's popping off, or this hot artist in Africa that's popping off, or this hot artist in like, you know, Eastern Europe that's popping off, you know what I'm saying? So, and your music will travel around. But, and also at the same time, if you're trying to chase these big placements, you got to understand the producers that you see up there, or even the artists that you see up there, like most of those guys been working together from the ground up. And obviously, once you break through that barrier, you get him a hit, you guys work together, other people going to want to work with you at that level. So I don't think people really want to do the groundwork. You know, I think they don't want to do groundwork. And to me, nowadays, the groundwork is easier than ever to do. Like, for real. The
barriers are lowered, right?
The barriers are lower. Like, honestly, I really believe this, and I'm saying this because I'm saying it out loud for myself, is like, if you just really go hard, put out music and put out content every single day, I think for like 3 or 4 months, there's no way you can't get no notice. You can't get noticed. No way. Because people aren't, like I said, it goes back to my original point. Most people ain't doing shit.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I can attest to that because once I started posting consistently, all of a sudden a few things hit the algorithm. Boom! All of a sudden, you go from 1,000 followers to 20,000 real fast. That's how fast it can happen, just from doing it every single day. Because like you said, most people aren't doing it.
Yeah.
And I think another thing people have to get in their minds is it'll feel like a little bit of a grind. So you got to really want to do it.
Yeah.
It can't be I see Kanye West and that lifestyle looks fun. I want to, just try it out. Like, it's got to be like, I'm willing to sacrifice a year or 2, 3, 4 without making any money to get there.
And I think it's just I know it's the instant gratification and that's the thing is like, we can see it, like we can pull it up right now and see the end result. But we got to understand, you don't know what that person has went through to get to that end result. It's just so easy for people to lose and artists to lose track of that. So that's like the biggest thing is like, if you want to like work with some of the biggest artists, maybe you get with artists who's serious and build them up and you'll get there. Yeah. If you're an artist who wants to work with other big artists or big producers, you have to build yourself up. You'll get there. Like, I'm a big believer, like you'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels much better that way too. Cause it's like you earned it. You're not an imposter. You didn't somebody didn't just put you on, like you've been working and you deserve it.
Right.
That's how I feel with my podcast. I have people hitting me up now that I couldn't imagine them hitting me up before, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And just from 3 years of work. And it's like, that feels good. But also I know I put the time in, like 70 plus episodes deep.
Exactly.
Most podcasts stop after like 20, I think. So
because they realize it's work.
They realize it's work. And that's what I tell people. They always ask like, bro, like I want to start a podcast and blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
just start.
I say, are you sure do you really want to start a podcast? Because it sounds good. Yeah, it's fun to get on and talk and whatever. But the real work is afterwards. When the cameras is off, you got to edit it, distribute it, all of that. That's where it's like, how bad do you really want it? And then it goes back to what you said, like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I've had that. Like, what am I doing? Am I wasting my time? Like, am I going to be a loser now? Like, wow, I spent all my money and time doing something that's not going to work out. Like, that definitely creeps in.
Yeah, I think it happens with everybody. Like, you got to take a risk, calculated risk, but you got to just really understand, like, if you do really just go all in and really like have a plan, there's no way you can there's no way you can fail. Like, there's no way anyone can fail. If you have a plan and you go all in and you stick to that plan and you're doing it day in and day out, there's no way you can fail. Like, there's no way you can fail. Failure is obsolete. It's obsolete.
I agree. And I almost feel like failure is a perception because like, maybe it didn't work out this time, but as long as you don't quit, you didn't fail.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Most people quit. Like, you can't lose if you don't quit.
Yeah.
Okay, you may have a few bumps in the road. Okay, I learned this. This is what not to do. Maybe I need to get with this person. They can help me out and pivot me here. It's just like, you can't lose because somebody's already done what you're trying to do. Somebody's already somebody's already been to where you want to go at. So it's like, it's not like there's a blueprint laid somewhere.
Yeah, that's the evidence that you can do it too.
Exactly.
They put their pants on one leg at a time.
Exactly.
Let's talk about your upcoming projects.
Yeah.
I would love to. I don't know if we can play it off your phone or something like that.
Yeah. I don't. It's not fully mixed.
Okay. Don't worry about it. But let's just talk about it then. What's going on? What was your thoughts behind it?
New albums. This upcoming album is called Heart of a Rebel. It's part of a series, and the reason why I called it that is because, just what's going on. A lot of people lack confidence in themselves. They don't really have the heart to be who they want to be. And you see in like today's day and age, authenticity is what people really want, but a lot of people really don't live that. I mean, when you got to live yourself and your truth unapologetically. Like, with me, I'm just, what you see is what you get. I'm not here to please everybody, man. It's 8 billion, 9 billion people in the world. Not everybody gonna like it. Yep. You just gotta live with that. But it's just about being yourself authentically, and then me just showing you how to do that through music, and me just telling you like part of my story through music, through that, and then just other people's story through music. So it's really about, do you have the courage? Do you have the heart? Like, do you have the heart to be who you want to be? Because really, you being who you want to be is being rebellious right now, and is not worried about like what your family, your friends, or what people around you are going to say. People respect people who are authentically themselves, whether they like them or not.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, and my thing is to really show people like, hey, you can be yourself unapologetically. You ain't got to be no asshole about it.
Right.
But you can just really be yourself, and people will actually, whether they like you or not, they'll be like, you know, I still rock with you. You know, I still rock with you because, you know, you are who you say you are.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to show people, how they can do that with this album.
I agree that people do look for that. Like from a fan point, I think people are gravitated towards the real. It's almost like you can sniff it out. You can tell when things are fake versus authentic.
Facts.
And people are hungry for that authenticity. That's why they're turning away from mainstream media and getting shit from like Joe Rogan. You know?
Facts. Yeah.
One thing I'm wondering is, you know, obviously you've been making beats your whole life. Does it get like, how can you feel like, man, I want something fresh and new? Like, does it get to a point where you're like, all right, damn, like this is starting to sound the same? Like, do you kind of get what I'm asking? Like,
yeah, honestly, like, man, I just get inspired to try different things. And it's really just honestly living life. Like, you know, maybe I'll just like hear a sound or just try something new. And then like, you know, let me experiment. Let me make something like this. And I'll make a few things like this. Let me try this. Let me try that. Let me get a new piece of equipment. Let me test this out. It's always just like really just experimenting. And I think that's what keeps me fresh. And then also just living life. Because sometimes I'll take like a week or 2 weeks off of making beats, listen to some stuff that I have, come back. Oh, I got a new idea now. And then I just go back and make some other stuff. Or sometimes I'll just take off and let me make, you know, I just want to make something that's more upbeat or some electronic or something. Like I don't really look at music, because music, I think Quincy Jones said this, music is really just 7 notes, which is true. So I don't really look at music in itself as just like categories. It's really just you slow down the tempo, you take away different instruments, you add different instruments and different elements. And that's kind of how I look at music and genre. It's not like I got this trap beat, I got this beat, I got that. I personally don't look at it like this. I just look at it as the sounds and the sonics. That's kind of how my mind works. So I'm always just thinking like new ideas, and it's really just living life, man. Because life is what really like keeps me inspired. And then just like I even listen to like stuff I made like 5 years ago. I'm like, man, this sounds good, maybe I'll redo it. So it's just like, it's just life, man. That's what really inspires me. Like whatever I'm going through at the time, that's it. I don't know. I feel like I can't stop.
I love that.
Yeah.
Are you rapping, singing, all of the above?
More so on this project, it's just straight rap. So it's just straight rap. Yeah. It's just like, I love rap. I love hip hop, man. I love rap. I love hip hop. Hip hop is definitely like my love, man. I just love rap music. I love it. I love the art of it. I love freestyling. You know, I just, my whole thing was just being the best at what I can be. Like, I feel like I've mastered the art of production. I feel like I've, you know, as far as when it comes to rapping, I'm just keep getting better. So I really wanted to kind of focus on that. But maybe, who knows, maybe changing, maybe get a blend of some things. Really, it's just more importantly about like, do people get the message? Are they having fun with it? You know, I want everyone to really like, I really want this to be the soundtrack to like be who they are.
Dope.
Yeah, I want them to be who they are.
That's dope. When can we expect it?
Next month. Next month. December.
Oh,
December. Yeah.
It's a little Christmas gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Are you gonna have like a party or an album release, or how's it gonna go?
You know, we have something. We have something we're working on. I can't really give details, but we have something like where we plan on doing, man. But you know, so we're really excited. You know, I just really want to kind of get the music out there, and I really just want to see what people, you know, what people say and how it makes them feel. Like, that's the biggest thing for me, man.
That's
like,
dope.
Yeah.
Can we expect some TikToks and some reels to come out of that, or what?
I mean, I feel like if you got to do that, I feel like you got to do that. Maybe at a certain point, like once you gotta get to a certain point, I probably won't do that. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't like doing that, but also at the same time, I kind of I like doing these things because it's also an art form. Like, and this is like, it goes back to like another point I was saying about artists not wanting to do stuff like that. Like, this is another art form. So you kind of got to look at it as an art form. If you can't do it yourself, then you need to get help. But also just understand how can you get creative with it. And like me, I love film. Like, I've watched a ton of movies. I love film, and I had to really check myself and look at it like, oh, this is like film also too. So I can get creative with doing these things. It doesn't have to be like me dancing on my tippy toes and shit. You know what I'm saying? So So it's just like, you know, how can I get creative with it? how can I get what can they get from like these videos? So that's kind of how I have to look at it, you know, that. And then just like, you know, so some other things I want to do with this album, this project, and then just, you know, I just want to keep putting out music, man. Keep putting out music, keep growing, doing more shows, just keep growing, man. Just keep growing, and I really want to impact the game, like in a way, and add more creativity to it, because I really want other people, especially like with what's been going on in hip hop and rap, is to really just keep that creative spark going. Like, we need that right now. We need that right now.
I do feel like it's plateauing a little bit. I feel like if you look back there, you can see evolution. Yeah. And now we're to the point where almost like it's not that they don't want to take a chance, but it's like there's a formula and people want to, you know, kind of almost like the gold rush. Like they want to get theirs in. Everybody wants to get their little hot single, be the next Ice Spice or Sexy Red or whatever. And I don't know. I almost feel like the work aspect of, you know, if I'm not blowing up fast and I'm not doing it right, can turn off a lot of young kids. Because I feel like the younger generation, they see it and they want it quick. They see other young people doing it fast. They want to get it fast, and they might make some sacrifices on quality. What would you say to that?
I would say, I mean, you got to really look at like what type of artist you are. Like, for instance, like if you look at, you know, like I said, at the same time, I'm a fan of music. If you look at like a guy like Tyler, the Creator, and I'll just use this as an example, like most of his fans that he has now, they were not fans pre-Flower Boy. They're completely different demographic.
Future fans.
Nah, they don't even know about the Mob Future mixtapes. They don't know nothing about, like, you know, they don't know anything about those early
eating the roach or whatever.
They don't know anything about that. But you got to understand his journey, and now he's like one of the biggest artists out in the world, especially when it comes to rap and hip hop. And he's did it his way. You know, he changed his sound. He started doing other things, and still kind of, it was still him authentically. Because, you know, when he dropped the first few albums, you would have never think he'd make something like Igor or something like Flower Boy. That just doesn't come across. So I think it's just like understanding, like, I think you should just make what you like, and just the people who it resonates with, rock with them. And then, like, as you evolve, grow with them. Don't feel like, if you want to make hits, do that. If you want to be a hit maker, like, I'm not against anything. Like, I think we need a balance of everything. But you got to understand, your journey may not be like somebody else's. Like a guy like JPEG Mafia, who's more like alternative, like rap, his journey is completely different than probably someone like DaBaby. DaBaby makes a lot of hits, and they're both good at what they do. Obviously, his reaches more of a mass fan base. This is more of an acquired taste. So you just got to be real with yourself and understand, like, this is my pocket. This is where I'm at. And accept that, like really internalize that and accept that, like, this is my place in the game, and I hold your head with pride doing that. Even if you're a singer in R&B, like R&B has like a lot of alternative pockets right now. Like, you don't have you know, you have people doing different things, like Daniel Caesar doing different things. You got Lucky Day doing different things. You got SZA doing more of the big mainstream stuff. But you have all these other pockets, like Raven, like all these other different artists of pockets of R&B. And you could say the same thing with dance music, electronic music. Like, you just got to embrace where you're at, kind of find your lane, and then just rock with it. Because next thing you know, I mean, you never know. You could be like a Billie Eilish, who nobody would think pop music, she would be a pop star, but that works at this time. And it's not traditional what pop music was traditionally thought to be. You know what I mean? So I think you just embrace what you do and just go hard with it, man. And the people embrace you, rock with them. Everybody else, fuck them. Like, it don't matter. You know what I'm saying?
You only need, like you said, there's like 8 billion people on the planet. You only need a couple thousand, 20,000, 50,000. How hard is that?
Yeah, exactly. You can get a couple million and it's still good. Like, you just gotta be true to yourself and true to your craft, and just embrace the people who embrace you. Don't look like, and appreciate who's embracing you. Because I think you look so far at the end goal that you forget there's hurdles that you got to jump through. So I think that's what most artists, no matter what they're doing, they're looking at more of the end goal, as opposed to like understanding, like, hey, these are hurdles you got to jump through to get there. And this is growth. This is growth. This is growth. This is growth. So there's no such thing as overnight.
No such thing. When you think about fashion, it usually has a cycle. Like, you know, we get back to skinny jeans, and then we're back to dressing like we were in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Do you see hip hop making a come back towards more conscious lyrics like there was when it first started, or do you think maybe it'll evolve to something else?
I think, as long as anything that's truthful is always going to resonate. And that's how I look at anything. Like, I mean, country music is all about truth. And it's like one of the biggest selling genres in the United States, I think, behind like hip hop or rap. But I think there's always going to be a lane. I think hip hop is still like, I think we got to remember it's still like a young genre. Like it's only 50 years old. So it's evolving. We're seeing it evolve in front of us in real time. Yeah. So I think we got to keep that in mind. And there's sub pockets of genre. And we just have to understand, okay, this is over here. Like you got your rage rap over here. You got your lyrical rap over here. But I think when it comes to lyrical rap, I think trying to think the best way to put it. I don't know how else to put it, but I think like, so the lyrical rappers now that are coming up, they got to learn how to make hits if they really want to hit that next tier status. And if you really look at like some of the top dogs from that are on top right now, and even from back in the day, like they were very lyrical, but they knew how to make, rhythmic records. Yeah. They knew how to make hits. Like Kendrick Lamar, he makes, conscious stuff, but he knows how to make hits. J. Cole has hits, you know what I'm saying? So, and I could keep going on down the line, but I think that's what's the disconnect is. But then again, playing devil's advocate, we live in a day and age of social media. You could still build a fan base without doing that. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like how big do you want to be? How much of a masses do you want to hit? Because before it was more so like, we ain't putting you out till you got a hit. Right. Now you ain't got to worry about that. You could just record a song, upload it, put it out tomorrow, and start promoting it on TikTok. Yeah. So if the dynamics have changed, it's just like understanding like where your place in the game and being cool with that. And if you want to move up, then there's things you got to kind of do. Okay. So yeah.
I'm gonna take a little more of a lighthearted question. I'm interested in like maybe some of your favorite artists that you've worked with, and maybe like any fun stories or experiences that y'all had.
I would say, well, we never put it out, but I worked with Nelly before, which is interesting because I don't know how that would work, and all we did was like smoke weed.
This is in New York.
Yeah, so we smoked weed and we just we ate, and he was honestly like one of the best guys I've ever met as far as like artists. Wow. Very, yeah. It was really, really cool, really authentic. I think just because like you can tell who actually loves what they do. You can tell people who really love this shit. I would say that. Being in the studio with Kanye, I was in the studio with him one time, and he just works. Like he works. Like he's extremely passionate. We know that, but he's not like what you see in the media. That's not really, he's just a guy who's really loves music, loves creating. He just loves creating. So I would say those are my two best experiences, because these are people that I've met or worked with that actually like love what they do. They love it. Like they live to do this.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and that's like kind of like me. Like I really love to do this.
Yeah, man, I love to hear that. My dad is from St. Louis, so he's a big Nelly fan.
Oh, so nice.
Big shout out to Nelly. Shout out to your dad. Yeah, I love Kanye West too. He's probably my favorite rapper. Yeah, I just love his spirit. It's like something about Kanye, like I see in myself. You know what I mean? Like it's like a little bit of rebelliousness. It's a little bit of like staying true to yourself, and also like living in the future, but you're here now. You know, you have a vision and you want to bring it in. People don't get it yet. Yeah, and then years later they look back and like, wow, that was amazing. Big shout out to Kanye. I love Kanye too. He's great. So we got the album coming out in December. Yep. Anything else you want to promote?
Right now, man, the album's coming out. I already have an album out right now, Tales of a Rebel. Go get that right now. Tales of a Rebel. And I just like, leave people with this is, man, like just don't stop creating. Stop looking at someone else's journey. Like your journey is different. And obviously if your adversity is really what makes your story better. Like, I had a girl I was dating at one time, and she was just like, I don't really have a good story. She's like, my life was so easy. She's like, I don't have anything to tell anybody. I was like, we all have a story. Yours is just different than mine, or different as this person. But understand, like, you have a story. If as an artist, you just want to put it out, and whoever it resonates with, it resonates with. If it doesn't, stop trying to like seek outside validation, man. Just make your art. The people who love it, they'll gravitate towards it. So yeah,
it's a great message. Justin, where can people keep up with you?
At Jay's the Name, on all social media platforms at Jay's the Name. You can find me on YouTube, Justin the Rebel. You can find me there at Jay's the Name, JaysDaname. Yeah, every social, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of those, man.
Dope. Justin, I really appreciate the time, man. Thank you for dropping this knowledge. This is definitely going to help people. Thanks again.
Hey, no doubt.
Dope.